Thank you for joining us today on the Alaska Weather Show. I'm Emily Niebuhr. It's April 6, 2023. You can reach us at 1-855-937-4977, online at weather.gov/Alaska, or email us at nws.ar.tvweather@noaa.gov. We love to hear from you, so please reach out. Let's look at your headlines for today. We do have a few winter weather advisories out. We have in the Yukon Flats and eastern Alaska Range. We do have some snow advisories. We'll get to those in a moment. We do have Gulf low and lingering precipitation across much of the Panhandle, and that's going to continue over the next several days as system after system continues to move into the Gulf of Alaska. For your aurora forecast today, it's just a KP3 and moderate. So not headline worthy, but maybe in Fairbanks, you can get a peek through the clouds. Below normal temperatures through at least mid-April. And this is the big important story for breakup forecasts for your rivers, which soon will become ice-free, but below normal temperatures for now. Let's look at your current advisories. Again, like we were just saying, in the Fort Yukon area and down to the Alaska Range, we do have concerns for snow. It's been snowing since yesterday across many of these areas. Light, persistent snow with this lingering system that's staying overhead. So again, we're expecting a few more inches over the next several hours and into your Friday morning. So just be aware if you're traveling in these corridors that you may run into some challenging travel conditions and a little bit of blowing snow, and in the Alaska Range, some wind chill concerns as well. Let's take a look at your current satellites. Again, we have a lot going on, but fairly weak systems. We do have a strong low pressure system to our south. We do have that lingering low pressure system that's moving into the north of the Panhandle, but still causing, as you can see, widespread clouds associated with that trough. So fairly active weather pattern today. Let's show you the map. So we have this 997 millibar low, but that's rapidly weakening, causing widespread light showers, you can see from our satellite capture today. And then further south, this 986 millibar low, which will be important in the coming days, but staying well to the south of our area right now. And then, as I was just saying, we have this weakening low pressure system that's moved inland north of the Panhandle and is still bringing widespread rain and snow showers to the region. And a very weak trough, but it's just lingering over eastern portions of the state and causing that advisory level snow just by lingering and producing light snow all day. It's adding up. So tonight, as I was saying, this system weakens across much of the western and the central Bering, but again, widespread light showers associated with that. We have a high pressure system just to the west of the Chukchi Sea, and we have that strengthening 976 millibar low tonight. Again, staying south of our area, but still is going to impact us in a few days. Meanwhile, that low continues to move inland into the Yukon, but we're still getting a lingering trough along the coast is going to be continuing to cause light rain and snow showers across much of the Panhandle region. As we get into Friday, that low continues to move further to our east, and you can see that we have mainly dry conditions across much of the mainland areas. That high pressure system moves actually to the south, and again, we have a fairly weak pattern as that trough continues to kind of dissipate across the western Bering, and really by your Friday isn't really causing much rain or snow showers. As we get into your Saturday weather, however, this 970 low finally starts to move rapidly towards the Panhandle, strengthening and causing widespread rain and snow showers across a lot of the Gulf of Alaska coast. You can see we also have a low pressure system and its associated warm front start to move into southern portions of the Bering and western areas as well. So we do get kind of a more active pattern by our Saturday, and we do have a few weak systems bringing in light snow into the interior for your Saturday as well. Let's look at our temperatures that are going to happen as a result of these active weather patterns. Again, our temperatures are going to be fairly stable in the Panhandle region due to that persistent rain and cloud cover. We're going to see Friday morning temperatures in the middle to upper 30s across much of the area, as you can see. In our interior valleys, 11 and 10, chilly temperatures for April for sure. Anchorage starting out at 18 degrees in the morning. So definitely not really springtime morning temperatures. It's definitely going to be chilly. As we get into your Friday afternoon, some sunshine is going to help us a little bit. We're going to get into the lower 30s in the interior valleys and across in the Anchorage area and at the Kenai Peninsula, but still a bit below average for this time of year. Saturday morning, we're looking at cold interior temperatures as well, temperatures in the teens for your morning low temperatures. Meanwhile, in the Panhandle, again, we're going to be lingering in the 30s due to that lingering trough and low pressure system. Even though it's weak, it's going to keep those clouds and rain in the area. And by your Saturday afternoon, we're going to warm a little bit up into your mid 40s. But again, in the interior, warming up to about the mid 30s, 32 in Anchorage for your Saturday high. Let's take a look at these chilly Arctic temperatures. As you can see, we're looking for Friday morning lows in the minus 13, minus 10 along the Arctic coast, chillier, minus 25 in some of the interior valleys. So again, like I was saying, definitely below our average temperature for this time of year. For your Friday afternoon, still not making it above zero across much of the region in the Arctic coast north of the Bering. Even in the Seward Peninsula, minus 3, minus 1. We're looking at some pretty cold temperatures. Saturday morning, even colder. We're looking at a minus 25 along the Arctic coast, minus 20 in some of the interior valleys, and minus 16 in parts of the Seward Peninsula. Cold temperatures for sure. Saturday afternoon, again, we're staying below zero north of the Brooks Range, and into the Seward Peninsula. So again, some cold temperatures for your Saturday. Let's look at your Friday morning as we go further west. Again, in the Bethel area, we're looking at temperatures for your Friday morning below zero. By your Friday afternoon, warming close to 10. As we go further south in the Bristol Bay area, temperatures warming into the lower to mid 20s. And of course, in the Aleutian Islands, where it's surrounded by that warmer Bering Sea temperatures, we're looking at temperatures closer to 40. For your Saturday morning, again, chilly start. We're looking in the Kuskokwim Delta, temperatures minus 9, minus 10. Certainly cold for this time of year. Along the Alaska Peninsula, we're looking at warmer temperatures in the 20s. And again, as we go into the Aleutian Islands, lower 30s for your Saturday morning. Warming into the teens in the Bristol Bay area and near 40s into your Aleutian Islands and portions of the Alaska Peninsula for your Saturday afternoon. So a little warmer out there. Let's look at your CPC temperature outlook. As we were saying in the headlines, we're seeing temperatures widespread below normal. Look at that large swath across South Central. And let me move out of the way here so you can see we're really looking at 80 to 90% chance below normal temperatures. That's a pretty strong signal. So these cold temperatures aren't going away anytime soon. So that's going to have impact on our breakup. And we'll be sharing that outlook with you in a few days when we get an updated version for you all. But again, across much of the state, we don't even see it close to normal or even above normal for the next 6 to 10 days. Similar, even out to 8 to 14 days. We're looking at by April 20th, we're still looking at a wide swath of below normal temperatures across much of the state, getting closer to normal up in the Arctic Village area, but still more likely it will be below normal than normal or even above normal. So we're stuck in this cold pattern for the next 2 weeks at least, according to our experts. And again, looking at your rain and snowfall, large swath, higher than average chance for precipitation. So it's going to be rainier and snowier than average for your April.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thank you for joining us on the aviation portion of today's broadcast. We have several weak systems in the area, but they are still strong enough to be causing low ceilings and low visibilities across portions of the state. You can see in our panhandle, we have widespread IFR conditions due to a weakening low pressure system that is in the area. We also have a weakening system that's causing some light snow and fog for your Friday morning. So again, IFR conditions in northeast portions of our state. As you go further to the Bering, again, we have a weakening system there as well, but it's still enough to cause a narrow band of IFR conditions in the Bering. For your afternoon, we do see, again, some improvement, but still a little lingering IFR in portions of the panhandle due to that low. Same story in the north, we do see some mixing out of those ceilings, but still IFR conditions on the far Arctic coast. Finally, we start to see a new system move into the western Bering, and that also will be causing some local IFR conditions as well. For your Saturday morning, again, we're seeing isolated areas of IFR in some of the valleys and maybe some lingering snow showers still as that frontal boundary dissipates. And we also have a few lingering clouds in the panhandle, but certainly improved over your Friday morning. Finally, as you go west, you can see that frontal boundary continues to push a little bit eastward into the Bering. By the afternoon, it continues to progress more into the central portions of the Bering. You can still see we do have lingering IFR conditions in interior valleys for your Saturday afternoon. And again, mixed MVFR and IFR conditions in the panhandle. Let's take a look at some of your past forecasts. So for AKwx Pass, we are going to start out in IFR conditions, but improve with some of that diurnal mixing to MVFR conditions by the afternoon hours. Same story in Adigan Pass. By Friday, for your Lake Clark and Merrill fields, we're going to be sitting in VFR conditions, so great flying weather down there. At Raining Pass, we'll be staying in MVFR conditions, though, for Friday. Windy will start out at MVFR, but improve to VFR by the afternoon hours. Isabel Pass, again, will start at IFR conditions, but we're going to see improvement towards the afternoon. Mentasta Pass, the same story. IFR improving to VFR by the afternoon hours. Tahina Pass will linger in VFR conditions for all of your Friday. Portage is going to start out nice and VFR conditions, but there's going to be some lower clouds in the area, so MVFR by the afternoon Friday. Chilkoot and White will be in IFR conditions all of Friday, again, due to that lingering weakening low. It's hard to get rid of some of those clouds in that area. Let's take a look at your freezing levels. We do see cold air is really in place across much of the state. You can see much of the mainland below freezing. You have to go out into the Bering or to the Gulf of Alaska to get above freezing levels at the surface. We do have some warmer air east of the state into the Yukon, where again, we're seeing freezing levels up to about 6,000 feet. But again, we're lingering in cold temperatures across much of Alaska. For your icing forecast, again, with these weakening systems, there's a lower risk of icing, but still could be some considerable moderate, especially in steep terrain areas of the panhandle for Friday. So be aware of that. Besides that, because these are weakening systems, we're just seeing a risk of isolated moderate icing in some of these weakening frontal boundaries. Let's take a look at your upper level winds. We do have 150 knots, fairly strong upper level jet in western portions of the Bering. We do have 70 knots across the state moving westward. So two prominent upper level jets impacting our area. As you go further down in the atmosphere to 9,000 feet, we do see the jets weaken to about 70 knots from the west. And across the Bering, we have this 40 to 45 knots. Finally, at 3,000 feet, we're seeing about 40 to 55 knots across portions of the Aleutians. And meanwhile, we have a new low moving into the Gulf of Alaska. So we have a 55 knot jet associated with that and closer to the surface. And And reflecting that, we do have 2 areas of turbulence. Again, these are mostly weakening systems, so but we still do have concerns for considerable moderate across much of the Aleutian Islands for your Friday, and in portions to the Alaska Peninsula where some outflow could cause turbulent conditions.
What's up, Lunar Lookers? Trace here. The moon is our closest companion in the sky, but can still be confusing to follow. As the moon orbits the Earth, it transitions through phases caused by the constant light of the sun. Let me show you. On April 6th is a full moon. After that, we progress through several phases. Waning gibbous, last quarter, waning crescent, new moon, great time for stargazing, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, then back to full. It takes about a month to orbit the Earth, so every week the moon goes about a quarter of the way around. With the mnemonic light on the right, the moon's gonna get bright, you'll always know what phase is coming next, which is really important for stargazers of any level. One more thing while you're enjoying the full moon this week, look for Venus, the evening star in the west just after sunset. Keep looking up.
Ever since I was a little boy, I've traveled 40 to 50 miles up that river. I'm a commercial fisherman and a hunter. I hunt and I fish for my food to put on the table, and I love it. I'm Jerry Ivanoff, born and raised in Unalakleet, Alaska. I fear not for myself, but for the future generations. The lack of ice, the lack of snow has an effect on the animals and the fish that we depend on to live.
The Arctic Report Card workshop here in Nome, Alaska has been an opportunity for Indigenous people who are along the Bering Sea coast to share their experiences about the impacts of climate change for our future generations.
The Arctic Report Card is an annually produced peer-reviewed report on the state of the Arctic.
The annual Arctic Report Card says the pace of sea ice decline and surface ocean warming is unprecedented.
U.S. government scientists say there is an unparalleled period of warmth in the Arctic.
This year, for the first time, we are including a chapter on the Indigenous perspective. Specifically, it will be a chapter focused on the changing Bering Sea.
I think observation is very important.
My grandparents, they taught me how to look in the sky and observe the clouds. And they used to call me their weather person.
My father was very aware of the environment and the weather conditions, ice conditions. So he spent a lot of time talking to me about what to look for and what to watch out for.
Scientists will come in, spend a year or two in the Arctic, and then gather a whole bunch of information, then go back. The big advantages that Indigenous people have is that they're there the whole time.
And they've seen significant changes that should have been documented starting 20 or 30 years ago.
For many years, the formula has been to invite one or two Indigenous experts into a room full of scientists to hear what they have to say. At this workshop here in Nome, we are trying to shift that balance in a major way where essentially I'm the only scientist in the room.
And we are good stewards. We never depleted any stocks. We kept our land and our waters clean.
When I was growing up, the Bering Sea would be completely locked up. And now what ice we get is, we call it sikuliak. That's the young ice that's formed from the bottom of the ocean as slush. It floats up. Now it's thin. It's easy to break up.
We need the ice, and with it diminishing, our walruses are in danger. Even the whales that I depend on are in danger.
We have frequent storm surges, flooding, hotter temperatures, not only in the air but in the water. And and it's affecting the well-being of fish, plants, and animals.
With the water being 10 to 15 degrees warmer in the Norton Sound, I caught so many belly-up fish in 2019 I've never caught before. My nets actually were totally stinky.
The biggest change I see recently is the lack of the seabirds, the migratory birds.
As a child, we had more subsistence foods. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of food, which makes up for everything. We were rich with our foods. Today, I worry about that food disappearing.
We're having to adapt to change our ways of hunting.
It's a whole different world that we're going to have to learn to deal with.
They're seeing now what many of us are starting to see or will be seeing soon, and the longer we ignore these kinds of stories and these kinds of examples of what's in store for us, the worse things are going to be.
It is critically important for Indigenous experts from Alaska, like Jerry and Melissa, to come to major scientific meetings, like the American Geophysical Union in San Francisco, to share their observations about the warming Arctic.
10 years ago, our sea ice was about 20 miles outside of our communities, and now it's at minimum 50 miles out. It's just up to us to continue to adapt and not just stay stagnant.
I feel very positive that our voices are finally being heard.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Thank you for joining us for the marine portion of your forecast. Again, let's look at the latest. The sea ice edge still well in place across much of the Chukchi and the northern Bering Sea as well. But as you would expect for this time of year, and with a lot of the low pressure systems that have been moving through lately, we do continue to see the ice edge erode away northwards. Same story for Bristol Bay. We have just a little bit of sea ice hanging on in Cook Inlet as well. Let's look at your important marine forecast for the weekend. We start out Friday. We do have generally along the Gulf of Alaska coast, like I said, we have that weakening low pressure system. So we don't have a coastal jet today. We're just looking at maybe 20 knots, 15 knots on your Friday. But in the interior passages, we're having some gap flow. So be careful if you are traveling in those areas. They have some calm areas and unexpectedly high waves and gusty areas. So some gusts up to 35 near Skagway, winds 20 knots and waves up to 4 feet in Ketchikan. As we enter Saturday, that potent low pressure system we were talking about really starts to have an impact on the marine environment. We start to see a nice low level jet. We're seeing gale force winds 35, gusts to 50 knots along the Gulf Coast, waves up to 22 feet. So again, be careful in those areas, well into gales. In interior areas as well, we're still seeing gap winds being forced by that low pressure coming up northward. So we're seeing gusts up to 40 knots and waves up to 11 feet near Ketchikan. So again, travel with caution. It's going to be quite variable on your Saturday and marine environment in the Panhandle region. As we go towards the North Gulf Coast, again, we started with your Friday of fairly nice conditions, variable winds along the North Gulf Coast, 10 knots, Prince William Sound, 10 knots, waves 2 feet. And in our normal gap areas, we're seeing winds of up to 20 knots and waves up to 5 feet, southern portions of Cook Inlet, south of the Homer area, about 4 feet as you travel outside of the Homer area. But as we hit your Saturday, today, watch those winds jump up. We are looking at 50 knots coming out of some of these gaps. Waves up to 13 feet, 12 feet. Again, as that low pressure system's really going to drive some of these gap winds. Even out of Homer, winds 25 knots, waves 5 feet. Prince William Sound, a little more sheltered, but 3-foot waves. But again, something to be concerned about if you are going to be traveling in these marine areas over Saturday. Highly variable winds and waves, and some pretty strong. For Friday, as you see, as we go along the Alaska Peninsula and into the eastern Aleutians, got northerly winds 20 knots, waves up to 6 feet in south of the Alaska Peninsula. Stronger winds as you go further west. Saturday, again, we're starting to see that forcing from that really strong low going into the Gulf of Alaska. We're starting to see out of these gaps, winds up to 40 knots, waves up to 8 feet. On the Bristol Bay side, still some gusty winds and waves up to 9 feet, winds up to 30 knots. As we go Friday further west, you can see we're looking at 40-knot winds, waves up to 17 feet, waves up to 14 feet south of the Aleutian Islands. So again, a wide swath of strong winds, gale force winds, and high waves up to 17 feet. By Saturday, that system moves further eastward, and so we do see improving conditions. We see waves 8 to 10 feet, winds about 20-25 knots out of the west. As we go towards your ice edge for your Friday, we have fairly light winds, about 15 knots, waves 5 feet. Much stronger winds as waves as you go towards St. Paul and St. George, waves about 8 feet. But as you go into the ice edge, winds about 15 from the west. On your Saturday, again, we see winds about 15 knots, waves 5 feet. Down near the Pribilofs, 9-foot waves. But as you go into the ice pack, 15-knot winds. For your Friday along the Arctic coast and Chukchi, we're seeing mostly light winds from the north, 15 knots. But as we go to Kaktovik, the wind speed increases to about 25 knots. For Saturday, you see again more of a southerly flow, but still fairly light at about 15 knots, and winds calm down a bit near Kaktovik to 10 knots.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.